Got it.
Okay,
Oh,
so I would like us to do just the sadhana of refuge and bodhicitta from the sorry, there we go. So we're going to do the refuge bodhicitta, which is yoga number 4 of the short sadhana of Vajrayogini, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about identification. So we this morning or last night we went to sleep. This morning we woke up and we did the arising as Vajrayogini, and at some point prior to the actually doing the sadhana, we would have done tasting of nectar, and I will have nectar pills for people when I come up to Boise. Okay, next, the yoga of immeasurable. So in front of us, we have Guru Chakra Samvara, Vajrayogini, all the various Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Dakinis, and again, ourself with all sentient beings. And remember, when you do a visualization like this, then you put yourself, imagine that you're in a place that's special. So if you've ever been to, for example, Bodh Gaya or maybe some other holy place, then you feel that you are there, your imagination. And then to feel, you can put your mother and your father on your right and left side, you imagine them as sitting there with you. And then if you want, because it's complicated to see all sentient beings, just feel connected with all sentient beings. And with that then, I and all migrating beings, pervading the furthest reaches of the infinite space, from this moment until the essence of full enlightenment, go for refuge of the magnificent holy gurus. We go for refuge of the fully accomplished Buddhas, co-destroyers. We go for refuge of the pure Dharma. Go for refuge of the exalted Sangha. I and all migrating beings, pervading the furthest reaches of infinite space, from this moment until we attain the essence of full enlightenment, go for refuge to the magnificent holy gurus. We go for refuge to the fully accomplished Buddha foe destroyers. We go for refuge to the pure Dharma. We go for refuge to the exalted Sangha. I and all migrating beings, pervading the furthest reaches of the infinite space, from this moment until we attain the essence of full enlightenment, go for refuge to the magnificent holy gurus. We go for refuge to the fully accomplished Buddha foe destroyers. We go for refuge to the pure Dharma. We go for refuge to the exalted Sangha. Okay, now in the practice, here's I have to close some. Okay, now there's an issue, or there's an interesting subject that in the Tibetan language, when you see yourself as a deity, it's called divine pride. But if you think of that, that's a very dualistic way of looking at things. Like mostly we would say pride is I'm proud of my body, I'm proud of my wealth, I'm proud of my education, I'm proud of my social standing. We have those sorts of thoughts. And so when that happens, again, it's a dualistic position. And what we're trying to do is have a non-dualist experience. And when we talk about non-dual bliss and voidness, and so I've often said that, okay, to have the sense of identity, like I am Tara, or I am, in this case, Vajrayogini and such. And of course, when you have an identity, that then it includes certain attributes or certain things. So for example, like I'm an American, well, then you'd have a certain set of things. And even within that, for example, I'm from Idaho, there would be a certain set of identifications. I mean, not that you need to identify with them, but the point would be that there is these identifications and then the additional sort of components to that. So, I mean, like I'm a Canadian and I have certain identifications and, I'm from England or I'm from France or whatever. So the identification is quite valid when you take it in the sense of that you want to bring forth the enlightened qualities of whatever deity. So whether it is, Vajrayogini, Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, or whatever deity you care to have, if there is the identification you self-generate as a deity, then there is that okay, to have that identification. But I've been really trying to think a lot about why do the Tibetans make it as a divine pride? Okay, and so I've come to sort of the conclusion that would work if your primary state of consciousness was dharmakaya. Now, Venerable Paul, or not Venerable, but Paula, Lama Paula, who teaches extensively both the Vajrayogini Tantra and the Chode practices, she made mention that when she was giving teachings once, that you try to keep about 60% of your mind in the sense of dharmakaya, and then 40% is sort of manifested as a deity. Now, how would that work? Well, the way that I like to try to present it is that, for example, if you bring your awareness to the atmosphere around you, so basically it's phenomena, but we use the atmosphere because it's basically we're immersed and penetrated in it. So you start generating a sense of I'm immersed. So the analogy could be as like I'm down inside of a swimming pool. I have the water all around me. If I move my hands, I can feel the water flowing through my fingers and such. So that's a more like stronger sensation. But the same thing applies to the air. I mean, as I move my fingers, I can feel the air pass through my fingers. So I am immersed. Then we take one breath and I'm penetrated. So that is a larger context of myself, or they say when I'm generating my sense of self, or my state of being. If you put yourself in this larger atmosphere, and I am empty of any self-existence, I'm completely free of being of any sort of independent, isolated self-existence. Well, that is that I'm immersed, penetrated, open, completely empty of any self-existence. And you've done that off of the atmosphere and your body involved in that. And then you could, of course, then shift it over to your sense of self. But the thing is, we are developing a wisdom consciousness. So using that to then say, okay, when I'm talking about I'm immersed in a universal ocean of interdependence. I'm immersed in the atmosphere. Okay, make that dharmakaya. That is this omniscient consciousness of all the Buddhas. It's omnipresent. It's in all parts of the universe and such. And it doesn't have any self-existence because it's got no form. It's a consciousness which is completely liberated of being independently self-existent. Okay, so that's a formless state of consciousness, wide open, empty of self-existence. Okay, and so that's your thing. Then from that, if you then generate, well, in this case, Vajrayogini, the syllable BAM, and then from that, then you generate yourself as a deity, you could say that is then the dualistic side of it, where you have pride. So dharmakaya has the pride of having generated sambhogakaya and then nirmanakaya. Now, what's that I think is interesting, and again, is that when you do it this way, for example, if you are a man visualizing Vajrayogini, or if it's, for example, you're a woman visualizing a male deity, I mean, Manjushri or Avalokiteshvara or Yamantaka, whatever deity, it's more like that in the state of consciousness that you've developed, you bring forth this vividly energetic image of a divine lady. Okay, I mean, she's ecstatic, she's stretching, she's got total bliss. I mean, she's drinking some of the nectar from the skull cup and stuff. Her body's stretched forward. I mean, it's said that she's a youthful body, pristine, vibrant, youthful body. Okay, now if you were in this universal ocean of interdependence, okay, dharmakaya, so you have this big mind, and in that then you generate, well, in case the syllable BAM, and then you finally generate the image of yourself generate Vajrayogini, you are getting all of that, you could say, energy on your body. I'm talking about this mostly from the male perspective. So again, for a woman, she can identify with it. I mean, she is a woman, so she could have that, and maybe it's a little bit more powerful for her. But for men, sometimes maybe they get a little bit like, I don't know, complicated about it, or maybe they feel they're getting too feminine. I know there's some silly ideas. I mean, Jetsun Kusho from the Sakya Treason's older sister who lives in Vancouver, she said sometimes Western people practicing the Dharma have such strange ideas about things. They make things so complicated. Anyway, but coming back to the point of that, as a male, being able to generate this incredibly vibrant, powerful, feminine, within your state of dharmakaya consciousness. Remember, like 60% of your mind's dharmakaya, 40% is a deity. Then all that energy, which is the bliss, which you are mixing with the voidness, maybe is quite applicable. and then, I mean, you can turn around and if you wanted to, you say turn down the volume on being this vibrant Vajrayogini, and then you turn yourself into Yamantaka and you crank the volume back up, and then suddenly you're this very masculine entity. So again, for a woman, again, 60% of her mind's in dharmakaya. She creates this secondary object, which in a way is dualistic. And then that object is then this powerful masculine capacity. Yamantaka, 34 arms, 16 legs, and all of the significance of that. So in regards to the idea of divine pride, this is one thought I had. Now, the only complication would be that it is a little bit dualistic, but you should always try to have that your mind is say primarily in the state of the divine wisdom of dharmakaya. All phenomena are empty of self-existence, so there's this universal ocean of interdependence. And so if most of your mind's sort of dwelling in that, and then you create this sense of being Vajrayogini, okay, that you still get the blessing. Now, again, if you wanted to, then you could say I am Vajrayogini. So then we shift off of being sort of this dualistic sort of divine pride side, whether I am the identity. So again, that's where for a woman, it's so easy. For a man, maybe there's a little bit of squirmishness or something, but then you shift over and say, no, okay, I am bodhicitta, and I'm allowing myself to be manifesting in the feminine aspect. So the identity can work. And again, both cases, whether you're doing the sort of divine pride coming from dharmakaya manifesting form, or you're just having I'm identifying, which is in this vast realm of being empty of self-existence, the relative perspective on the nature of reality, where phenomena are still appearing, you appreciate they're all empty of self-existent. But within that, you are the deity, in this case, this divine feminine, ecstatic feminine. And because you, both externally and internally, are completely interdependent, there's no sort of barrier which is making you independently existent. It's all this vast universe, ocean of interdependence. Within that, then, you say, my nature is bodhicitta. And, in both cases, you are bodhicitta, whether you're using the first one of sort of divine pride or you're doing the one of self-identity. Both cases, any form you generate is for the benefit of all sentient beings. In one way, you, of course, are benefiting yourself because you're doing that identification or that generation, that manifestation, or, it's for the benefit of others, because you're trying to be helpful for others. So this is just some thoughts I had. I wanted to spend some time, presenting this because, again, why do the Tibetans in their language say divine pride? Well, again, the way we look at pride is it is often off of an object. I'm proud of my social status. I'm proud of my money. I'm proud of my education. I'm proud of the neighborhood I live in, things like that. So generally, it's a reflection off of something, pride. Okay. And so anyway, it's an intriguing thing. I think for those of us practicing Tantra, it is good to spend some time going into this and reviewing it and having some thoughts about it, because it has relevance to basically, our practice. But again, the main thing though is that we are getting more aware that we have a very fine, subtle level of consciousness, which is our Buddha nature, clear light, dharmakaya. And we're doing our daily meditations of the death, bardo, rebirth as dharmakaya, sambhogakaya, and nirmanakaya. So we get an opportunity every day, maybe twice a day, to do a little bit of the death evolution, going back to clear light consciousness. And then from there, then we allow ourselves to rest in that, without form. I use the example of being at 30,000 feet, open space of the sky, and I am that open space of the sky. Okay, and then from that, then you start generating your bodhicitta, syllable bomb, and then the body of Vajrayogini. So anyway, these are the things that I wanted to just review a little bit and sort of such. So again, we want to make it that we can have a really deep sense of faith, commitment, involvement in our tantric practice. Okay, so that's where this is what I wanted to present a little bit. Now, if there are any questions on that from either of you or not.
Okay, I have a question. Especially when I was first doing the practice, I found it very difficult for me to let go of that business about being self-existent. And instead kind of transferred as, oh, look at me, this is what I've become, like I've become a more powerful being or something like that. But when you talk about, the dissolution and then generating bodhicitta, to me that kind of helps go in a little bit of a different direction. So instead of this idea of, clinging on to my identity as this deity, it's much more of a, sloughing off one thing and then with this great motivation becoming something else. And so is that appropriate, or am I still missing the?
No, that's fine. I mean, things take time. I mean, here, I've been practicing for 51 years now. Okay. And I can say certainly my early years of practicing were not well educated. So just I am Yamantaka, or I am Vajrayogini,
Right.
And then fully just, with my enthusiastic young, energy and faith, I would just throw myself into these meditations and visualizations. So, and as time passes and you refine it, so no, it's just fine, because it is a process. I mean, if we were really smart, maybe we could get it right away, but for most of us, no, it takes time to really create let's say a perfected state of being, which has really got some nature of bliss and voidness and bodhicitta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so no, it's perfect. Again, it's a refinement process, so we come to better understanding as the years go by.
Okay.
Other questions? Commentaries?
Offhand, the only comment I have is that I really appreciate your talk. It's very good. I don't feel as if that's ever been a real problem for me in terms of identifying with someone of the opposite gender. For whatever reason, I don't seem to have hang-ups on that.
Good.
But
well, you're much more liberated, enlightened guy.
maybe it's because of all that quiche, I eat all that quiche. That must be it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I'm saying not everybody has this problem. I have seen it on occasion where people say that it's a bit complicated. So I've been spending a lot of time, meditating on it and, trying to generate the aspects and saying, okay, what is my perspective as I generate myself? So I realized I like the thing of just what to say non-dualistic. Like I am immersed and penetrated in a universal ocean of interdependence, and I am the deity. The perfume that comes off my body is the nature of benefit. I totally like that. It's just so easy. But there is this other word saying divine pride. So how would I do that? Well, I have to just adjust it a bit, say, okay, I'm in a universal ocean of interdependence. That's dharmakaya. And then the dharmakaya is creating these things. And so, I mean, in one way you could say, they say Buddhas can do multiple forms in all different parts of the universe. So that would then to be that they have a much more liberated state of being. And then for them, manifesting whether subtle or coarse forms, Sambhogakaya or Nirmanakaya, very easy. They don't have any issues at all. So anyway, but thank you, Robert. I think you've got, a lot of people don't have any problem. I don't really remember having had any problem about it, but you do end up getting more sensitive if you're a guy doing a lot of that type of meditation. And I guess if a woman did a lot of Yamantaka or Manjushri or Vajrapani or something, they might get a little bit more aggressive because of that identification. But again, it's your skillful means, how you're manifesting. That's the more important thing. It's not like I'm a deity and this and that. No, okay, how skillful you are in the situations you're in. That's the real practice of bodhicitta and being a bodhisattva. Or, the Buddhas don't come into our, involve themselves with us with some sort of superstitious or fabricated mind. They're just open and they can perceive us in so many facets in so many ways and see what's most beneficial. So they are the ultimate expression of skillful means in helping sentient beings become enlightened. Bodhisattvas are learning that ability, and we're in that category. We are learning better and better abilities in our skillful means.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that, because the term divine pride, I mean, pride is such a loaded word in our language, and then to put divine in front of it, it sounds like there's a lot of hubris there or something like that, and that's not really the
egocentric.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I appreciate the discussion.
Okay, well, and more questions or commentaries? Because I think that that's where I'd like, that's the presentation I wanted. Okay, good.
Okay, so you want me to stop recording now?